Did you know that Bessie Coleman was the first African American and Native American female pilot with an international pilot's license that she earned from France in 1921? Bessie went from sharecropping in Texas to one of the best pilots in the 1920s and early 30s. She paved the way for thousands of future pilots of color, earning posthumous awards and accolades, including inductions into both the National Women and the National Aviators Halls of Fame. Her funeral in Chicago was eulogized by Ida B. Wells Barnett. Let's learn more about Bessie Coleman, American aviator. Bessie Coleman was born on January 26, 1892 in Atlanta, Texas, to a family of sharecroppers. She was the 10th of 13 children, and she actually was a sharecropper whose early years were shaped by the challenges of poverty and racial discrimination. She had to walk 4 miles each day to attend school during the off-season. Despite these hardships, Coleman was determined to achieve something greater. Her family's struggles with segregation and economic hardship instilled in her a fierce determination to rise above her circumstances. After graduation, she worked various jobs to support herself and her family, including as a laundress and a teacher. She saved her money in order to attend what is now the HBCU called Langston University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but had to drop out due to lack of finances. Her interest in aviation began in 1915 when she moved to Chicago to live with her brothers at the age of 23. It was from these brothers who were drafted into the war where she learned about the exploits of World War I pilots and was inspired by their courage. Determined to fly, Coleman faced a significant barrier. No American flight school would admit her due to her race and her gender. In fact, this is where Robert S. Abbott, who was the owner and founder of the Chicago Defender, he used his influence in the early 20s to help Bessie become a pilot. He used advertising in the Chicago Defender to promote Bessie, which helped her to secure funding to attend pilot school in France. In fact, she took night classes at the Berlitz Language School here in Chicago in order to learn French. Undeterred, she traveled to France in 1920 to pursue her dream. She enrolled at the Caudron Brothers School of Aviation and earned her international pilot's license on June 15, 1921, becoming the first African American and Native American woman to do so. Coleman's achievements was not just a personal triumph for Black women, but it was also a personal triumph for Black people in general and also in the aviation community. Her time in France broadened her horizons and solidified her role as a trailblazer. She learned tricks and stunts from seasoned French and German pilots and returned to the United States, performing daring aerial stunts and promoting aviation. She did air shows across the country, thrilling audiences with her aerial acrobatics. Abbott once again stepped in to help her finance her aerial shows. And with those shows, she was actually able to raise funds to buy her own plane. She primarily flew a Curtiss GN-4 Jenny biplane and any other Army surplus aircraft that was left over from the war. Her first appearance in an American air show was actually on September 3rd, 1922, at an event honoring veterans of the all-Black 369th Infantry Regiment of World War I. That was in Long Island in New York City, and that was actually sponsored by Abbott and the Chicago Defender. And then also she encouraged women to join in and become pilots. She also was a strong civil rights advocate as well. She refused to perform for segregated audiences, and she also refused to and she also was a member of several organizations like the NAACP, the Negro Motorist Green Book, and other civil rights organizations. Tragically, she lost her life on April 30th in 1926 during a test flight in Florida. She was supposed to have a performance the next day, and she was actually flying a plane that she had well, she wasn't flying. She was on the passenger side, and it was a plane that she had recently purchased, and her mechanic and co-pilot, they were up there doing test stunts for the performance the next day in Jacksonville, Florida. And what happened was that the plane kind of shut down and did a nosedive, and her part of the stunt was that she was supposed to kind of drop out and parachute out, so she wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and unfortunately she plummeted almost 2,000 feet to her death, and she was only 34. She had funeral services in Florida, and she also had funeral services here in Chicago, where her funeral was actually eulogized by Ida B. Wells Barnett. She has left such a lasting, impacting legacy. If you haven't seen our YouTube videos on the Robbins, Illinois History Museum, make sure that you check those out. She inspired, hosts of Tuskegee Airmen. She inspired Janet Bragg and Willa Brown to become pilots, and they in turn trained Tuskegee Airmen who became pilots. Like, Bessie Coleman is honestly the start of African Americans in aviation, or African American women in aviation. She was kind of the headliner of all of that. She is not only remembered for her pioneering spirit and trailblazing achievements, but also her role in challenging societal norms, paving the way for future generations of aviators and activists. She has been given numerous awards. Like I said, she was inducted into the International Aviators Hall of Fame in San Diego. She was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame, the National Aviators Hall of Fame, and she has so many streets and airports and schools and libraries and everything named after her. And also there have been known to have ceremonies where they will fly over her grave and drop flowers on the anniversary of either her birthday or her death. I can't remember which one. But Bessie Coleman was the absolute pioneer in Black female aviation. So thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Bessie Coleman and her remarkable achievements. And we hope that you can join us again next time on Tombstone Tea. And we hope that you join our Patreon channel. This is the first video that is going up on Patreon. This is going to be a free video on Patreon, but all of the other future videos will be just like this one. Definitely join us on the channel, because you get a more in-depth, detailed biography of the grave that we're going to go visit. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Tombstone Tea, and we will see you next time.